Yo,
Hey, brother.
aloha, sister.
So nice to see you again. It's kind of awesome this time. Yeah. Look at that.
See that horizon?
I see it all right.
See that water
Uh-huh. And that sky.
and that sky? Look at that. Unbelievable.
It's perfection.
Yeah, I'm in Laguna Beach. I lived here for 12 years of my life. This is not far from where I'm born and raised in La Jolla. So it's the next town up in between Los Angeles and San Diego, like a little art town, village town. And just grounding, having the best time ever, you know, soulscaping.
Always. Yeah, grounding is so important. Now more than ever. I have more grounding rituals that actually I'm remembering. I realized as a kid I used to do all of these things innately until I was taught that I was weird or different. For example, like physically with my hands touching my feet in that like K1 or K2 area and doing that and opening up all those channels. It's funny. It's kind of returning back to what I already knew.
Interesting. Yeah. Returning to who you were before we all got some type of indoctrination, right?
Wow. Yeah. The highest form of learning is unlearning. No different than detoxification is the highest form of nutrition.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. More important than nutrition. I was actually talking to David about that. I was on his immune summit yesterday. He asked me to be part of that. So we did an hour-long interview. And based on where we are today in the modern mechanistic world, detoxification is vastly more important than nutrition, which is the idea that the catabolic effect is prevents disease, chronic disease, more important than the anabolic effect, right? So what that means is catabolic means to break down, anabolic means to build up. Plants, herbs are all catabolic. Animal products are all anabolic. And for me, it's finding that perfect harmony right in the middle. Um, but we're in such a chemical laden world across the spectrum. When I first came in, I heard you talking about oxygen and breathing. Well, unfortunately, our oxygen is not where it's supposed to be, right? And the gnosis of that without getting it to become a fear is that sweet spot where we can be aware of these things, we can make decisions based on the evidence, but we're not governed by it. It's not manipulating our life. It's not destroying us every second, every waking second. We're in some fight flight response. So that's where I find myself, right in that balance.
Oh, I love to live in that sweet spot. And, I think all of the work that I've ever done to get myself here, even if it's just as simple as like drinking that green smoothie 10, 15 years ago, all of those things, conscious decisions that I made brought me to this point right here. And living in that sweet spot, but also knowing that of all the conscious work that I've put in, that there's a program, that unconscious program that still creeps up every once in a while for me. So I'm sitting in the observer point of view, like, wow, I've really consciously done this work, yet there's still that happening.
Absolutely. Every day it's going to be more work. I don't like to call it work. I think it gives it a negative connotation. I think it's magic. It's whatever you want to call it, a word that works for you, no pun intended.
Thank you for
And
that reminder.
yeah, we chop wood and carry water, and then we discover enlightenment. And what do we do at that point? We chop wood and carry water. And it's just constant in the evolution of being a student. And every experience that we have, like, for example, somebody cut somebody off on the road the other day. And the other guy was ready to jump out the car and fight. I mean, I've been in those positions, road rage, as a man, in my early 20s, late teens. And now I look at it and it's like, oh, that's medicine right there. That's an experience that I can learn from. I watched the whole thing play out and I fell into that experience. Or I was at the grocery store and the lady was handing me back the receipt and I said, I don't want to touch that receipt. You can just throw that away. And I advise you to never touch a receipt ever again. And everybody in that line, all of a sudden their eyes and ears perked up. Like, what's this guy talking about? And out of 4 people in line, 3 were extremely interested in what I was about to convey to the woman, to the point where they didn't care that it was being held up. One guy was losing his mind. I could tell he started to fidgeting. He was like, losing his shit. And I basically told the lady about how that specific form of dye that they use, that immediate drying dye on that paper, absorbs into your hands and into your bloodstream almost immediately.
Seriously.
And, yeah. And that's
Yeah.
that's science. That's not namaste. Right?
Right.
And so it's just everything we can do, every experience is medicine, is a learning lesson, is something to be aware of instead of just floating around unconsciously. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck.
As a matter of fact, it's those pinnacle moments where you have an opportunity and more momentum to make the change. Because if you're resisting that very thing in that moment, then it will continue to persist and show up for you over and over again, and be disempowering until you're ready to step in the power and just become sovereign. Just ask questions. Like, if someone said that, as a matter of fact, someone did say that very thing to me at a grocery store. It was someone who worked there. They told me. They actually felled it in half and said, you don't want to touch this. And I was like, why?
Only in Canada.
And it made sense. It clicked. Like, where every time you fold it and that dye goes away and you see the numbers fade, like, where does it go? That's a really good question to ask. In processing plants where they're using massive steel blades to break down the food that they're processing, and that blade gets smaller and smaller and smaller, where does it go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't want to think about these things. It behooves us to want to explore parts of the reality that we've just grown accustomed to. And people wonder why they get sick or in pain or in fear or dissolution, and have completely given their power out to something outside of them. It's not rocket science. It's completely, utterly common sense. And so, yeah, what you resist, you persist. And by the way, I apologize if I'm completely dazed right now. I've been meditating on the beach since 5 on the rise, and I just got off a very impactful conference call with some of the top athletes in the world, and I feel very embodied right now. And,
I love it. I always vibe with your vibe, and I'm so grateful that you spend time. You're one of my greatest teachers. I know you're a student. I'm a student. I'm a teacher. I think that's why I recognize it so much in you. And I kind of wish I was there with you right now, quite honestly.
You are. You are here with me.
Love you, brother. Ooh, nice. I wanted to pay homage to one of the greatest lessons that you have taught me, and you continually teach me. And thank you for calling me out, by the way. Sometimes the truth does hurt. And so, yeah, I appreciate people and friends in my life that don't say the things that I want to hear, because I find most people do that. They stack people around themselves that basically say everything confirming that they want to hear. So they don't have the opportunity to grow and change and evolve and just consciously do something different, better
Yeah.
than before, right? So the lesson that you teach me is the power of words, the words that you use, and the words they start from a thought, you know, and a lot of our thoughts are happening automatically. They're happening no different than they happened yesterday. They're repeating the same thing, and then you give them more power when you say them out loud. And I used to say, until I met you, I'm all or nothing. And I actually, I realized that I was all or nothing because I was predicting the outcome with those words. And I am all and I am nothing at the same time.
Well said. Absolutely.
Yeah, and in etymology, and even you've corrected me before in the whole good morning, and looking at that word, it just
Yeah.
it whammo, it makes perfect sense. Mourning, what does mourning mean? For most people, mourning is experiencing grief and loss and lack. And so now it's a ritual to say grand rising. And even still with this practice, again, sometimes I find myself slipping because of that program that was so indoctrinated for the first 25 years of my life, not being completely empowered and in the embodied love consciousness.
Beautifully said. Hold on, let me fix. My hair is getting out of control, by the way.
I love the long hair.
Yeah, I had short hair for what, 8 years, and decided to grow it. Okay, so word magic,
Let's go there.
spelling.
Yeah.
That's why they call it spelling, because you're literally casting spells.
Yeah.
We take so much for granted on all the little nuances around us. I talk about optics, I talk about smell, I talk about sound, frequency. Well, at the beginning, there was the logos, which is the written word. Without the word, there is no God. Without God, there is no word. Speaking is the transmission of thought. And it's so beyond the auditory file or the auditory nerve. It's a vibratory field that's developed through the larynx and the center point of your diaphragm, and it comes out in a frequency, and it's in us. We've taken that for granted. We've taken what we've taken for granted what all of that is. And it's gotten us to a point where our verbiage and our vernacular and the way we talk is so much lower than the resonance of our essence and our being. And that's the pitfalls of word magic, is that just like anything else out there, whatever else you want to talk about in terms of manipulation, in terms of confusion, in terms of enslavement of self, in terms of a strategy to create the sheep becoming the sheep herder. So we're basically trapping ourselves because they don't have an agent on every quarter guarding us with a rifle. They use these types of spells and insert them into the consciousness of things that are at the center point of our very existence. And one of them in particular is speech, auditory. And you can see it all across the English language. My language, نگاه کن من همش فارسی حرف بزنم برای شما. میدونی من چی میگم؟ میدونی؟ My language is Farsi. It's an ancient tongue.
Wow.
And every word is so descriptive. میدونی من چی میگم برای شما؟ صورت شما نگاه کن. عاشقتم. Every word has such meaning that you can't manipulate it. You can't change it. There's no breaking apart and implementing your own, illusion in it at all. English language is being ripped apart and flipped the script so many times. So not to keep going down, I think that where I'm heading is that we have to stop taking things for granted. We have to be aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling in the vibratory field that we're putting out there. And there's so many. I can give you 100 different forms of word magic. I'll do a video on it. We're literally just like throwing shade on our entire movement, on our entire dharma, every single moment of the day. We don't even realizing it. But those key tones, that key frequency, that key vibration is not 432, which does add up to 9, which is the vacuum. All of them add up to 9, by the way. All the octanes, it has to add up to 9, just like all the geometries add up to 9, 360 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, a hexagon, 45 degrees. If you notice, they all converge at 9. 9 is the infinite and the vacuum. It's the center point. 432, 432, 9. Anything you multiply by 9 adds up to 9. Numerology, all of this is intertwined. The whole thing, it's tripped. Take all this stuff for granted. This is not what they teach us in school. When they teach us mathematics in school, it's when you give, it's like long division. Like, what?
Right.
We've lost our way.
We've lost our way.
We've lost our way. So we'll reverse engineer all that back into the power of our eternal tone. We know how powerful the written word is. I mean, look at the Bible.
Yeah.
Look at the Quran. Look at the New Testament, the Old Testament. Look at all the powerful, powerful transcripts. Look at the Constitution. Constitution. Convict. Conspire. To deceive. Trippy. Contract. So a contract means, so con is to deceive, tract is to put in place. So, I mean, come on. It's full on. So I really advise people to start tuning into the words that they're thinking and speaking every day. Not only could they be harming themselves, but they can be harming everyone around them. And start taking this shit seriously.
Yeah, and they're doing it so unconsciously.
And they want to make the word fuck so bad, when fuck is one of the most beautiful words.
I have it for example. Pussy. I'm sorry, I had to. It's actually beautiful. I'm like, where was that misconstrued? I'm not sure.
Future understanding conscious knowledge. Hold on. Future understanding conscious knowledge. Of conscious knowledge. Fuck. That's the acronym.
Okay. I like it. Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, by the way, he actually came out with something called reverse language, where, as with the invention of the telephone, wanted to empower people to reverse the language, to give them back a tool to actually maintain power when they spoke over the invention. And that was totally swept under the rug and never brought to the forefront. The invention was, but not his intention with the invention. So I thought that was really, really, really interesting. And another thought that popped into my mind was my grandfather, who is my patriarch. He used to say to me about the music that I was listening to, and not in a crotchety, grumpy way, but why the hell are you listening to that? That it's an assault on your young mind. You're so beautiful and
Yeah.
impressionable, and you're listening, and I never really got it, bless him, until he was gone. And now I understand, and it's so true that we're taking in all of the messaging from these different outlets, and we're being bombarded with just really disempowering tones, words, and
Mhm.
it's planting seeds for our thoughts. And then, of course, when we're putting them into speech, that we don't even realize what we're doing to our own selves, because our selves are eavesdropping, but to other people who are surrounded by us. And the way I see it, we're either connected or we're distracted, and we're helping other people connect, or we're distracting them from connecting themselves.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything we do, like, are you eating to thrive, or are you eating to die? Right? It's so simple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's across the board. What you just said perfectly, when it comes to speech, when it comes to sounds, when it comes to what we're feeding our soul on all levels, we're so disconnected from the fact that we're a completely, utterly dynamic biological system that picks up nuances of every energy field, which is why we're so prone to the dangers of non-native electromagnetic frequencies, which is why we're so impressionable when it comes to what we're watching on TV, what the optics are, and all that stuff. I've, you know, that's, I think that's like my mission here, is to take thermodynamics, quantum entanglement, quantum physics, which is the explanation of the spiritual, and articulate it to perfection, and bringing it out in a holistic approach where you can just eat it all up without any resistance, without any histamine reaction, you know, and all of that. Like, just like perfect ebb and flow. All in, baby.
You totally are, and you're doing it
Do you
perfectly.
think I do a good job of that?
Uh, Come on, brother. Do I
No,
think
I'm just
I
curious.
know
I'm curious. Yeah.
I know certain things, and I like I mentioned to you earlier, I know truth because I operate now more from a heart space as to a head space, and I feel truth. I can hear something, and because truth, it is eternal, and lies dissolve pretty quickly. That when you're in your heart space, you can feel it. And
Yeah.
also, when you're in your heart space, you're incapable of lying. You can't fucking lie because you're in your heart. So it goes both ways. And
Yeah.
I love that you're in line with your soul purpose. I think that's what we need, more people waking up to the fact that they're here right now. It's a gift. It's a gift to be part of this. You actually asked for it, you signed up for it. So step up, step in to part of your reason to be here at this time, to make the change. Look at that. Ooh, I can hear it.
Yeah. I wanted to do this while you were talking because I was vibing on your frequency, and I deserved to look at something better than my face. And this is this is it.
Well,
This is
while
it.
you're eating your watermelon, I actually just came off a 3-day cleanse. Actually, not cleanse, fast.
All right. What kind of fast?
Yeah.
You went straight water fast, or
Pretty much water. I broke down and I had a few broths, some veggie broths that I made with miso. I was actually craving to reconnect to true hunger because I haven't felt hunger, real hunger, for maybe ever. Do we even know
hmm.
what that feels like? Because most of the time people are misplacing the thirst mechanism with hunger, and or using food as a way to distract themselves from, the unhealed traumas and wounds that they don't want to look at. So I was craving hunger. I was like, I really
Hey,
need to.
hold on. That was beautiful what you just said.
Thank you.
That's exactly correct. So if you're listening right now, what Carly's just saying is that 99% of the time you're not even hungry. Your body is just stuck in a loop cycle to confuse itself even more so it doesn't go further into the deeper gnosis of what's been manipulating you. And to cope with it, you're stuffing yourself with empty calories and whatever it is. Even if it's good food, we don't need to be eating all the time. We need to slow the roll on eating. I was supposed to do a live on fasting, but I got so swamped. I'm meaning to do it. I have to pick a day and just do it. I'm going to break down the whole concept of fasting from the religious aspect to the nutraceutical aspect to the pharmacological aspect to the physiological aspect on all levels, why our bodies are completely dehydrated. Most of us are, I'd say 90% of the population is dangerously, egregiously dehydrated. And instead of reaching for food when you're hungry, reach for water, reach for minerals, right? So I just wanted to like blow that. All right. There's a account here, Bonic Barbara. Can you get her out of here? I just keep getting that. I would just click on her thing and just say delete from room. Everybody else is having a problem with her.
Can I take the comments off altogether?
You can do whatever you want, but this person's just a quack.
I'm such a newbie to this, brother. I really don't know. Comments? Turn off commenting. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so
yeah, and when you say water, like real water, not tap water, because I can look at someone. I'm at the point. I actually will own the fact that I'm a skin whisperer. I can hear the screaming of other people's skin, which is a communication, detoxification, protection organ, largest organ, and it doesn't lie either, because you know the most common expression people wear on a day-to-day is etched into their skin. And so I look at people's skin and I can see that they're dehydrated. So I'll offer, you know, just drop in little seeds of perhaps you need to drink more water. What I do is I put sea salt in my water, or I'm on spring water, whatever. And hearing what people say, like water is water, I'm like, you need to look into Dr. Emoto, because water is not water. Water is alive. It has a formation. It has information, and it also protects at a cellular level. Our in our nucleus, our DNA is protected by 10 layers of the most noble water, and that is not tap water that's sitting in rusted pipes.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, what a reality we're in, where you have to have abundance to pretty much drink clean water.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the polarizing truth, the paradox that we're in today, where clean water is more expensive than a gallon of oil. Water is essentially the ether of life across the board, across the substances, you know, H2O. It's a hydrogen with two hydrogen bonded with an oxygen. What does that even mean? When people think when you're hydrating yourself, I feel like most people are picturing drinking a gallon of water and that water then gets into your gut. No, every cell needs to have a specific amount of hydrogen in it. Every cell. So you could drink a shit ton of water and be completely dehydrated. So it's methodology, and it takes time to build that water within the cell and do it properly. It's a combination of having proper kidney function. It's a combination of making sure the adrenals that sit on top of the kidneys are functioning properly. There's certain, you know, hormones in the body that act as diuretics, and for good reason. Sometimes the body needs to hold water. Sometimes the body needs to push water out, especially if you're a woman. It's like the most intricate software of all time. Just think of how, like, some of the most craziest algorithmic softwares that are being developed today, our human body is infinite more complicated in its ability to adjust and create. And at the same time, it's so simple, right? You get that? Like, it's such a wondrous magic. And at the same time, there's fundamental truths, at least today in the 21st century, whatever year this is on the Gregorian calendar, who knows? It's so funny. We're like,
it's the
21st
cosmic
century.
wheel.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so for me, water is everything. And I highly recommend, if you're on this live right now, to subscribe to the Cymbiotika YouTube page. And in there, you'll see my first water video. Did you watch that? It's
Yeah.
powerful. Okay, yeah, you watch that. So I channeled that whole thing. I'm not reading from a script. I'm not reading from a book. That was me in complete channel mode. And I've been into water for pretty much my entire life, and just understanding the key principles of how important water is. And you're talking about Matsura Emoto and his testing on how water responds to the vibratory field, whether it's music, whether it's anger, whether it's yelling, shouting, whether it's this. And it's similar with the Secret Life of Plants, right? Have you read that?
No, I haven't. I'm going to though. Write that
down. The Secret Life of Plants. Well, they did it. They basically, long story short, Matsuro is basically showing that water completely responds to the energetic field that it surrounds. It's a conductor. And so if you're yelling and shouting and angry at water, it will disjoint the molecular structure of the water. Its actual gridded structure. And if you love the water, you tune the water, you put the water through a resonance field. That's why I pray before I eat anything. You imprint. That water, similar with cymatics, which is the geometry of vibration, responds to it perfectly. And it creates a perfect symmetrical shape. And those shapes are the shapes of our universe, which is our world. We've lost our connection to these things. They knew about them a while ago. It's so beautiful. And to think that you can have that water come into your body, and then that's the water that inhabits your cells, which is basically you. So you can you understand like the interstitial aspect to that intracellularly? When that water fills the cell, that water is now a protective base coat where toxins and parasites and bacteria can't get in there. This is what alkalinity means. We're so blind to what alkalinity is. We just think of, oh, something's alkaline, something's acidic. But what does that even mean? Like, can we just get deeper on that? It's a percentage of hydrogen, parts per hydrogen. So what does that mean? That means how much hydrogen is actually making it itself into the cell. Now imagine we're getting interstitial alkalization with water that's alive and filled with love. What happens to the cells of the body? What happens to the mind, the heart, the entire expression? Everything changes.
Alchemy.
This is true alchemy. This is true inner gnosis. And that's why salts and things like that are so important, because they give structure. And not only do they give structure, they give electricity. And that combination of structure, hydrogen, electricity, and all of a sudden you have a fluid state. And at that point, you're completely symbiotic with nature. And there's no disjointedness. There's no dis-ease. There's no discommunication. It's in the thrust of discommunication within the body that your theme is frustration, pain, anger, and you go towards premature aging and chronic disease. Aho.
Aho. I watched late last night, our little family here watched your live with Novak, and you said you said a lot of things. So did Novak. It was so beautiful. I did one of the things that you recommended, which was to go look in the mirror, really look at yourself in your own eyes and try to lie to yourself. Because I've lied to myself before, in an unconscious program. And even when I was unconscious, it was like making an appointment with the truth to come back another day, because you can't lie to yourself. It's impossible. You can lie to others outside of yourself, but you can't lie to yourself. And it was a very powerful exercise. So I wanted to thank you for that. And I wanted to invite other people to do the mirror exercise. And any way you want to take it. I
Do you know
used
how
to
long I've done that?
years.
No, how long the longest I've stared at myself in the mirror in that test before?
Yeah, but it was timelessness. So if you measure, I would guess an hour.
70 hours
Straight?
straight.
Come
Yeah.
on.
2017, right before, right after the Oregon eclipse. Right after that festival, right before I got bit by a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Right
No
before
way.
that, I went into full samadhi after the Oregon eclipse. I did the 9-point death meditation, and I didn't eat for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was in some freaking serious like evolution at that point. But
You
my
totally
life,
were.
my life changed a lot. I don't know if you've noticed what's the upgrading in my reality over the last several years. That was one of the main kickoffs, was the Oregon eclipse, which I was told not to go. I went through it after that. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I did a little bit over 70 hours straight by myself in my bathroom, no food, no drink, nothing, just me and my soul. And a lot was discovered, things that I already knew consciously, but I couldn't just keep putting it away, because we do lie to ourselves. Let's be clear about that. We all lie to ourselves consciously. We choose to lie to ourselves. We subconsciously try to suppress it. So when you get real with yourself, you abandon all of that illusion, all of that suppression. And there was a lot of things in me that I had to come clear with. So it's similar like going and taking 30 ounces of ayahuasca in the jungle. It's all these forms of getting close to something outside of you or something within you, is of the highest order when it comes to full detoxification.
So important.
Yeah.
When I was detoxing my food, and then I started detoxing my cosmetics, and then I started detoxing my contact list, and it just it really impacted me, because I realized more important than what you get is what you get rid of. And so when I lead my yoga classes, I always invite people to set an intention, but I also invite them, as opposed to inviting something in, like, what do you need? No, it's what do you need to let go of? What do you need to say goodbye to? Because we're always thinking about, oh, I want more peace, but there's no room for peace when you're hanging on to and clutching chaos. So you've got to move one thing, clear the space in order to invite that thing that you really want, that you're like moving towards the direction of, but then your emotions and your thoughts aren't aligning with that thing, because you're over here, you're like hoarding whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. I have a couple more minutes left. I actually pushed this further. I'm getting like signaled by a bunch of people. You want to turn on the commenting? We can answer a few questions, and then
And then we'll pick another date, because I love picking your brain and spending time with you. It's the best ever.
I appreciate that. It's an honor to be able to be in this position. I don't take it for granted. I want you to know that. And
I know.
feel,
It's a privilege.
Yeah. Ditto. And to see you thrive and grow the way you have since the time we've known each other, several years, and being part of Cymbiotika and being part of this movement, it's really an honor. And you're a family for life. and we're deeply connected forever.
We sure are. We sure are.
So
Okay,
the
guys.
next live, the next live with Novak is next Wednesday. We're decided we're gonna do weekly lives on Wednesday every week, probably for the next 12 weeks. And then from there, we're building a platform together. We got some of the top athletes in their sport that are joining forces. I'm going to be working on building a mind, body, soul academy. Think about that.
Yes, please.
It's time. It's time.
It's time.
This is it.
Yeah.
Embodying everything. Spirit, health, human design, dharma.
Yeah.
Removing of programs, removing of social conditioning, abundance codes. I mean, all of it. No pain, no fear, and not selling you anything. This is just the position that we are capable of being in. This is happening right now. The number one boxer in the world and I'm now going to be his mentor and coach. So I already got the number one tennis player. So I'm just going to try to go through every sport and pick the number one out of all of them and bring them on board this ride. This thing is so full on what's happening right now. Nobody realizes what's happening right now. It's unbelievable. I just pinch myself.
You know, the silver lining of all of this is that we needed this to come to the surface in order to see the equal and opposite, which is exactly what you're talking about. And this has been nothing but truly imperative, I think, for the wake up, the snap out of our coma, which we've been living in, and really an ask to drop into your heart so you can feel truth, speak truth, live truth, instead of living a lie and not questioning, just buying and consuming things that really do nothing for your happiness, which is spirit at the end of the day, or soul. And I know there's a difference. Maybe that we can dive into that topic next time, the difference between the two, and why it's important in our everyday lives in this physical material world to stay connected to that part of ourselves where truth lives, and the purpose of it all.
And I want to preface this because I think you remember at the end of the Novak live or interview, I was very clear in what I said. I said, look, this is our perspective. We're not selling you anything. We're not telling you this is the answer to everything. By the way, can you see the dolphins right there? Hold on.
What?
Yeah. Can I zoom? Oh, yeah, I can zoom.
Let's zoom.
Oh. They'll pop up.
Okay.
Boom. There it is. Right there. Come on. Come on.
Then medicine. Bring it in.
Boom.
Oh.
You see it?
I think I did.
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay. Or is it right in the middle of your screen?
Right in the middle. There it is. There's one.
Oh, wow. Wow, you guys. We are so lucky.
There's another one. Come on. Usually they're really like, they're dancing. There they are. There's two. There's so many dolphins here. It's out of control. I usually swim out to them and just play with them. They're really, really docile. So what I'm saying is that this life might not be for you. I don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want. Just, this is our perspective. If it resonates with you and you want to be about it, you don't want to just be talking. You want change in your life. You want this life to mean something. You care about your destiny. You care about your lineage. There's more dolphins. There's another one. It's just, Step up. This is your time. This is your opportunity. Here it is. There they are. They're going berserk now. And you get what I'm saying? This is the time where people have to take ownership, because the keys and the tools are being presented to them right now. I'm doing the best I can, and so are a ton of people like yourself out there. It's up to you. That's what being sovereign means.
Yeah,
no one is forcing you anything. You got to make your own decision.
That's the beauty of it. We have the choice, and we can choose fear, which is a choice, and we can choose love. And at the end of the day, you know, when you divorce yourself from one fear, you can't hang on to other fears and prioritize. Like, oh, I'm ready to let go of this fear, but I'm gonna hold on to that's not how it works. It's you say goodbye to fear, period, across the board. And so I'm at the point now where I fear nothing. I don't fear death. And I think that if more people recognize that death is in itself a passage, and there are no chances, there's nothing random, that you know, it's all by design anyhow. We have nothing to fear. We're not connected to how revered death was to our ancestors. They had that wisdom. They even had ceremonies to welcome them into welcoming death as a very important initiation into adulthood.
Absolutely. That old stuff is gone. It's taboo. I've been surrounded by death like no other. And I've died 1,000 times already. And I'm ready to die some more.
Yeah.
I gotta roll. I really gotta go, but hey,
all right,
keep
brother.
Going. You keep going. I'll just log off, but sending you so much love. Look at that smile. I honor you, sister. Such an honor. I love you beyond, and it's really good chatting with you. I'm glad I was able to jump on. Sorry for my tardiness. Oh, wait. Those dolphins are really going crazy right now. Hold on.
Everything is
hold
perfect.
Look at this. Come on. Come on, baby. Come on. Literally, they're like doing backflips. You see them, right? You can see their dorsal fins?
Yeah. Saw that. Yeah. Incredible.
Isn't life beautiful?
Life is so beautiful.
Everybody think like a dolphin. Like, just go research how a dolphin operates with sonar technology. One of my mentors, David Wolf's mentors, Dr. Patrick Flanagan, was able to decipher that sonar and make a neurophone, which is something that I use all the time. That's a vibratory field of communication. Well, believe it or not, everyone, we have the same thing. I love you guys forever. It's an honor. I'll talk to you soon. Big hugs, big kiss.
All right. Big hugs, Chervin.